All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Curl Conversations. My name is Jennessa, and as usual, I'm with the amazing Faith. And today, I think we're talking about something that I find just like probably one of the most important conversations ever. So talking about creating a guest experience that's welcoming and authentic, and all of these amazing things that is customized for your guests. Like, how do you welcome a guest into your space with just love and kindness and all those amazing things? And there's one person that we know that embodies all of this so much, and it is the amazing Rosie, who owns Curl Power Salon. So she's about to come on stage with us.
Hi, Rosie.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm deeply honored to be on here with both of you. So, thanks.
We're also so excited.
So excited to see your face. Love your frames, by the way. Super cute.
Thank you.
Yeah, we all have like solid eyewear addictions, don't we? We all.
It's a sexy problem.
But Rosie, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your salons and kind of how we all know each other?
Sure. Okay. Well, my name is Rosie Jablonski, and I own Curl Power Salon in Minneapolis, where we have 2 locations, and one of them is also a plant store called Here We Grow. My logo. And I have been a curly specialist for the past 10 years. And about 8 years ago, I started working with DevaCurl as an educator, and that is how I met Jennessa and then Faith. And yeah.
I didn't know it was that long. I didn't know it was.
I know
10 plus years. It's time flies.
Time she flies.
How long ago did you open up the salons? How long have you been a salon?
So Curl Power is just celebrated its 5-year birthday, which is very exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I really put it together as a response to feeling like I hadn't seen salons that felt really safe and welcoming to me and my community and all of my guests. And so this conversation is so near and dear to my heart because I feel like it is the essence of why I became a salon owner.
1,000,000%. So I guess we'll dive right into it because there's so much, I think, to unpack in this topic. But how important was it for you to create this salon that represents, and embodies the comfortable and welcoming experience? And like, why do you feel that was the focus for you?
So I feel like when I went into the beauty industry, I really didn't know what to expect. I hadn't had a lot of exposure to the beauty industry as like a big beauty. I wasn't really exposed to that growing up, and just knew that I loved the creativity of hair and personal expression and working with my hands and being with people and making people feel good. Like that all seemed like very, very obvious to me. And then when I got into the beauty industry, I kept running into spaces where I felt so personally uncomfortable. And I started hearing these tidbits of people talking about being uncomfortable in beauty spaces because of their gender presentation, because of their hair texture, because of their skin color, because of their body size, because of their name the identity. There were spaces that felt unwelcoming. And that made me feel really gross that I was part of this industry that was pushing people into spaces where they did not feel at home. And so it was kind of like, do I give up on this? Like, do I just go be an activist, art activist or something instead? Or do I is there another way to do this? I felt like I was living like a double life of trying to be like, your body is beautiful and exactly the way it is. But then I'm going to go to work and be like, you need 45 expensive products that you don't like and don't even feel good here. So making Curl Power was my way to wrap it all together. Like, I want, no matter your gender, no matter your texture, no matter whatever, like, you can just come as your whole self and we've got you and we're going to help you feel like the best version of you that we can help you with. And I just felt like like obvious that I needed to do that. And so I have tried to do it.
I love that so much. Actually, I was thinking as you were talking, because one of the reasons why I became a hairstylist is because I realized that I could have the equity and anti-racist conversation through helping people embrace who they are. Because I was in social justice spaces my whole life, and I just felt like, man, I wish I could just go deeper in a more grassroots way. And so I loved when I came into, so I was able to visit Rosie's salon maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. When you first opened, I think we visited. Mm-hmm. And I was really blown away because you get education not only about your hair, but you get education about like different identities or different opportunities, different things to know about the community. How can I get involved in blank? And yeah, I just felt like I was at home in your space, and like you weren't even doing my hair. So we want to know how you did it.
Completely burst. Yeah, it was real fun.
That is so amazing. And I think it's like so important to be as aware as you possibly can be, right? About these things, and put yourself in positions to learn them when you don't have that kind of perspective. So that's why I've been loving this conversation so much, because this is an opportunity for me to learn and grow, and I will take that always. So when you were putting kind of these individual pieces together, when you were growing Curl Power, when you were building it, what were the individual pieces that like stood out for you that you were trying to put together to make this puzzle?
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing, like feeling included in a space, feeling comfortable in a space. There are so many parts to it, and it's an ever evolving process where I'm like personally trying to educate myself and grow more and find out where my blind spots are and forgive myself for not knowing things that I haven't known yet. But the things that I have already thought of and been working on and trying to improve upon are like the media presence that we have. Like when people are seeking us out, they need to be met with something that is representational of them. So having a really broad spectrum of people's images in all of our marketing was one part of it. Making sure that the language that we use in our marketing is consistent with the values that we're trying to like live out. So all of that, like how people first encounter us, is important. And then there's the physical space, making sure that the space that they're entering into is a welcoming space. And there's a lot to think about with like physical comfort depending on your body. And there's ways that we want to make sure that the space is accessible to people with different mobility issues or just body, the way we inhabit our bodies. And then there's making sure that our services are inclusive. And, you know, there's so many ways to go at it. There's the education of the stylists, like making sure that they understand that their language is important, to make sure that people are feeling included in being there. And I know I'm being vague because there's like so much. We have pronouns that are on the mirrors, and like it's a little invitation, like my pronouns are she, her. What are yours? And people sometimes are then, you know, invited to share their pronouns if they want to. It's also an opportunity if someone doesn't really understand what that means to have like a little moment of clarity if they're feeling like it. They're like, oh, I don't know what that means. Why do you have that there? And then just like we were talking about before, like it's a great opportunity to explain something. And then, you know, when they see that in the future, they're like, I'm now on the level.
I just had a question I want to ask you about this, because, you know, I'm realizing as you're talking that I guess there's a difference between feeling welcomed in a space, which is great. Like, I think we really want everyone to feel welcome in a space. But how do you go from, and this is like, you know, this is probably also kind of complicated, but how do you go from helping everyone feel welcome and then one step further, to me anyway, helping many different kinds of people feel seen in your space? Because it's not just like, for me, like walking into your space, I'm like, wow, I feel seen. And yeah, do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, it's totally like there's a difference between like having an all are welcome sign and having people who like I almost feel like it's the difference between like acceptance and tolerance and like or like the like sort of 90s like I don't see color to being like yes Black identities, like yes Indigenous identities, like we need to see people for their identities and like honor those identities and celebrate those identities and not pretend like I mean I'm not going to pretend like I know what it's like to be a Black woman, but I like can educate myself in enough ways that I feel like I can talk to Black women about their hair and feel confident and not like welcome with this like it's like it's not enough to just be like it's cool if you're here. We have to have enough education amongst us to be able to know what identities are and like what might possibly be important, and also not to make assumptions about what someone who you assume might have an identity wants or needs or is comfortable with. Like I think the listening and the openness and the just like trying to connect with people as people is a really big part of it. And for some stylists, I know that comes with like the confidence to be able to do that with a lot of different kinds of people comes with experience. And that can be a hard place to start if you're at a place where you're not super confident yet in talking to all kinds of people. Like it's important to honor that is not something that we just come with as humans if we have not been raised in a super diverse and inclusive environment. Like there's a learning curve, and there's like it doesn't just happen. So it's
it comes from a willingness to start, right? Like it comes from a place.
But
also, I don't know if I answered that question. What do you think?
No, I really appreciate that because this is what I'm learning too, because I grew up, my family is one of the very few Black families in a predominantly white neighborhood. And so I recently, probably in the past 15 years, I'm 34. And so probably for the past maybe 10 years, I've been thinking about what does it mean to feel seen in spaces? Because sometimes it's like, well, I don't really want to address this person's different. So then you unknowingly erase that person, or that person feels invisible. And so I'm like really into what does it mean, or what can people do or businesses do to help people feel seen? Or celebrated even. Like I feel celebrated in this space. I feel like that's like the goal for me. Anyway.
It's better than being seen.
Totally. That was like kind of a tangent. I appreciate you indulging me.
No, these are good. It's a good tangent.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that you said that how, you have to show up with representation before your client even, walks in the door. Like you have to show what you believe, like who you are. And we were talking about this on a past episode, how important it is for stylists to show like accurate representations of hair and not, I don't want to say like artificial volume, or like don't edit don't edit the images, don't hide things that don't seem curated. You don't know how important it is to show up as authentic as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's important to like remember all of the breadth of humanity that gets their hair done, and like show everything you've got, like all ages, like all hair colors. Like if you're afraid to show like some grown out roots or something, like, address that like in your mind am I not showing that because it doesn't look super polished? Like kind of like what we were talking about. Like, if there's like, I love having children in my space and I really welcome that. And we do a lot of kids cuts. So making sure that we show the range of kids and like kids hair, sometimes it looks amazing and it's 1,000% like supermodel hair. And sometimes, it didn't make it all the way there. And I like to post both of those pictures because parents should know that like, just because your kid didn't make it to like the most perfect hydrated ringlets or whatever, like it's fine. They're kids. Like they're healthy, they're happy, they've had a good hair experience. Like That's great.
I love that. I'd love to normalize that for adults too. It took me a while in my natural hair journey to not be searching or pursuing like the perfectly hydrated, defined coils. It's like, oh,
Frizz is my new happy place. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I'm here for the undone. It's like, so what? That's what my hair is doing today.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to get there.
Yeah. Can we normalize frizz? Can we celebrate frizz? Can we
Yes.
see frizz as like wonderful? Frizz is your friend.
I completely agree. And if you want big hair,
Frizz.
gotta have the Frizz foundation.
You gotta have it. But can we also just like really highlight the word celebrate? I think in our industry for everything. Like it's really, and I think it should be about a full celebration all the time. So.
I'm ready to make a t-shirt.
I totally agree.
Full celebration.
I agree. And this kind of goes into like, even what you're saying about helping people feel seen. It's like, how do we have our clients come into our chair and we're not addressing a problem? Like my hair is not a problem to be solved, or it's not some kind of scientific equation. It's like, what are you feeling like today? Like when you're going out with your friends, what do you want to feel like? When you're, watching TV, what do you want to feel like? Because I also want to know what my hair is going to do when I'm laying on it. If I don't feel like doing it for like, however long. And so, yeah, hair is not a problem to be solved. I think we got to get out of that, I
think it's a really valid point because I mean, the conversation, the consultation is so important, but should you always assume that it has to be like this intense emotional moment if it just doesn't need to be, right? Like, do you always kind of, would you suggest to take your client's lead or just automatically come in thinking that this really has to be a moment of really strong connection?
I think that like strong connection is important, but it doesn't have to be super deep into your like emotional hair trauma. Like I like to start with really open-ended questions like, how can I help you? Or if we're like getting into someone's life just a little bit, like I want to know about them to know what they do with their hair. I just say, what do you do with your time? And like people can then talk about whatever they need help with, whatever they do with their time, whether it's their job or hang out with their dog or whatever. And you just get an insight into like what they want to talk about and then follow that. Like if I'm like, how can I help you? And someone's like, well, I've got all these products that I want to talk about and I need a haircut and hate my color. Like clearly like I'm going to address these things. And if someone sits down and they're just like, I don't know, fix it up. Like that's, it's a different person's comfort. It's a different sort of personality style. And so like flowing with the way people want to be interacted with, like, I don't need to make it be more intense than it needs to be. And I don't need to like put pressure on someone to like dive into every ingredient they've ever used if they don't want to. But, we can sort of like, it's like a banquet that we can lay out and be like, here's things that we could talk about. Do any of these interest you? If someone like doesn't know what direction they want to go, I feel like I'm rambling. We can move on.
No,
it's good rambling.
What you're saying makes so much sense.
But,
and I tend to ramble a lot. I'm like, always going on tangents and all this. But when you're talking about like Jess said, their question of like, I don't really have to go super deep right in the beginning. Like, especially when I think when I first got into the curl styling world, it was a lot of like, and it was early. It was like in the early 2000s when we were it was kind of weird to talk about like, wait, you don't want to straighten your hair? Wait, you don't want to blow dry it? And so it was kind of always that like convincing conversation, like, you're beautiful. Like, why do you think you're not beautiful without your hair texture a certain way?
It has changed so much in a decade.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Not to cut you off. Keep going.
No, totally. And I guess, yeah, it is a decade. I said early 2000s, but yeah, it is totally a decade. And so how do you as a hairstylist, because we're also in an appearance-based business. Like I always joke around, like, yes, I'm a social justice warrior, but I'm also very vain, like, very vain. And so how do you, this is off topic, Jennessa, please chime in too.
Yeah.
As a hairstylist, how do you go from impressing your own ideals and what that person should do or feel like? Like, for example, like I have a habit of being in the subway back when I was on the subway a lot. And like imagining what I could do for people, like, oh, I could give her this look, I could give her that look. And so we have stylists, we tend to have our own perceptions or our own perceived, like, oh, this is what this person should do. Then they'll feel great because they'll look great. Like, how do you avoid putting your own ideas onto your client?
That is such a question, because like as artists, we each have our own flavor, and like it's like your handwriting. Like we each have a thing that is naturally the way our art flows out of us and our own aesthetic. But I think starting with like a really thorough conversation, and like establishing this kind of trust is really important, not just so you can get into someone's like deep personal history, but just so that they feel comfortable in answering honestly when you're asking them questions. Mm-hmm. And like making sure you have kind of like the flow chart that I imagine sort of like a flow chart in my head of like when you're asking someone about length, like knowing that if they don't know what length they want, like I can offer them some suggestions. Like if you like to pull it up high, we need the back to be longer. If you want to pull it up low, we need the front to be longer. Like helping them make choices that don't have any judgment or like value placed on them, just like the practical aspects of like when you pull your hair up, do you like pieces to fall down? Or if we're like creating a very short cut and you're not really sure, like, do you want this to look a little bit more masculine or a little bit more feminine? And then if they're like, how would that work? You could be like, fringy pieces around your face looks more feminine. Short, like horizontal sideburns will look more masculine. You can like help people without putting some sort of like, I think it would look super hot if you did this. You know, even if I have that opinion, like it doesn't matter. It's not about me. Like sometimes people come to us wanting our actual opinion, and then we can give it to them. And then a lot of times it's our job, I think, this is my personal opinion, obviously, is just to help them find their own opinion and like have enough of a like offering to guide the process through each part of it. More volume, less volume, whatever.
Totally.
Yeah. I actually, just also side note, I had to train myself how to not do that. And I'm going to be 100% honest. I had to totally train myself how to get out of that mindset. When I first started in the industry, one of the, and I'm a cutting specialist. That's what I do. And like, I will break down the angles of a haircut. So when someone says like, do whatever you want, I freak out. Like I get really nervous and I'm like, I can't do that. Like I need rules and parameters.
Give me a hint.
You know, right? But when I started learning, my apprenticer who I worked under would give me magazines and like those hair magazines. Remember they would come out with those like haircuts, and everything was what he would say, developing my critical eye. And so look at this picture, find out everything that's wrong, and then design a haircut to make it better. And so I would have to go through and like change the angles and kind of write out the haircut and then know that. So it was a skill set at that time to have a critical eye, which really is a judgmental eye, right? And it took me becoming a curl specialist. It took me making the move into including empathy and learning about empathy and making that move to really realize like how wrong that is. And that I was really, you know what I mean? Well, what a new experience could look like, but it was really, you know, I really learned that is not what our job is. Like you said, Rosie, it's really about, it's presenting a buffet and helping people choose and find the right language. And so it did take me some time to work out of that. I would say the first 10 years of my career was that. But you can just decide not.
I feel like that's such a wonderful exercise.
Totally.
To like, it's a kind of a combination of like Faith on the subway being like, what could I do to this person's hair? And like figuring out like what angles would I do. And then you just present the buffet to people. You're like, here's some options that we have. We could take this face frame shorter right here around your face, kind of hold it up. And we're like, that would like give you this like open face situation. Wink, wink. That's what I totally want to do. Or we can leave it longer here, which will give you the option to pull it back more, but it'll also like, you know, whatever. You can kind of like guide people towards what you think they might eventually like more because you have that critical eye. I feel like that's like A+ skills, and it's all in the delivery.
Yeah.
And so I always say it's all about cause and effect, right? It's more about that. It's cause and effect than it is about cosmetic appearance.
Right. And there's no right or wrong way to do it, but you can offer them all the different ways.
Yeah.
So you know what they are.
So how do you particularly create like an individualized customer experience? Like what does a customer experience look like at Curl Power?
Well, I think it starts when people, if they call, there's usually, like, we encourage people to book online because how many phone calls can a person take? But we love it when people do call and we get to talk with them, because really having the first point of contact be someone super friendly, super knowledgeable about the services, and able to meet people where they're at with their own information about their hair is a great like first step. So they've already had like a good conversation. Even if people book online, they've usually called, and sometimes people are checking us out ahead of time to make sure we know our stuff. So making sure that they get that person that is like enthusiastic about helping them and letting them know that like they're like them being celebrated is our priority, without like laying it on too thick. Just like, we're here for you, babe. And then when you come in, like being greeted warmly, it's like real basic. Like we want people to feel literally seen when they walk in the door. And then when we come to the station, like we sit down in front of them, we have a little chat, we like get to know them and make sure that like if people have fears, like they're seen and heard for those fears. If like if they're, you know, just psyched to be there, like they get to, you know, we will try and celebrate. So like I feel like these like very basic skills of like mirroring energy and like making sure that you know happens, like that's, maybe it's not basic skills, I don't even know, I don't know what's basic anymore. But like then there's the option, you know, like to talk about pronouns if people want to. There's all of that. And then you know, there's other things that we have around the salon that can kind of help to customize particular, like we were talking about bodies earlier. We have a lot of bolsters and pillows and like cushions, so that, you know, differing body heights or body shapes or flexibilityness, like if you need a cushion to help you sit in the chair or to lean back or whatever, like we're very cognizant of people moving their bodies through space and feeling comfortable. Like I really hate it, like beauty is pain, like that phrase makes me want to cry, makes everyone want to cry because it's painful. I just think that we don't have to do that. Like beauty should be for fun. And this is also self-care and body maintenance. So making sure that we are customizing to people's particular body needs is super important, so they're literally comfortable while they're there. And then continually kind of just checking in and asking people what they need. Like, just like hanging out with a friend, but also working. It's not like hanging out with a friend.
I grew up with that saying, like, beauty's pain, get over it, or like, you know, that whole thing. So it doesn't have to be, unless you're getting, you know, unless you're at a medical spa, which is different.
And then suffer through.
And then beauty is pain, but you knew what you were signing up for.
Yeah. We have an electrologist at one of our spaces, and she, we're very proud to have the only trans electrologist in the state of Minnesota, and she works primarily with trans women. And for that service, beauty is pain, but it is also gender affirming, life saving services. So we're super excited to
I
help.
actually just learned from my TikTok. My TikTok For You page is very informative and educational because I guess I curated that way. But I actually learned that electrolysis is a more inclusive service for all skin tones, whereas laser hair removal is not inclusive.
Totally. If your hair is darker than your skin tone, if your hair is lighter than your skin tone, generally lasers don't work for you, I believe is how it works. And electrolysis is ideal for that.
Wow. Okay.
How does that work? Yes. If your hair is lighter than
Wow,
your skin
the more
tone.
you know, the more you know. Thank you so much.
The more you know, for sure.
I really had no idea. So I thought I really just couldn't have any kind of hair removal service that's like a more permanent. But I'm like, oh, electrolysis, like that actually is a thing.
It's totally a thing.
Wow.
So, hooray.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jennessa.
No, this has just been like so wonderful and enlightening, and also really comfortable, because I feel like, when you said, honor, forgive yourself for what you didn't know, and it's okay to start where you're at. And that is such a wonderful and welcoming thought and sentence. And I think that those are all the things that I embody you. And every time I think about you, Rosie, I just think about how you so authentically honor whoever is in your space. And that just means the world to every single one of us. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing just a really important conversation with both Faith and I. Thanks
so much for having me. I'm truly honored and love to talk about all these things, and obviously just love to talk. So
yeah, thank you so much. I'll echo that sentiment from Jennessa. And also for our viewers, if you want to learn more about Curl Power Salon, Rosie, where can they find you? I dropped in the comments the link to your website. But do you have an Instagram handle or?
Yep, we have Instagram. I think we're the most active on Instagram. I think we do Facebook also, but go to Instagram. And our website, and you can check out our little plant store, which we didn't get to talk about, but it's a cute and fun thing that I did during COVID to try and rejuvenate my space and provide something nice for my neighborhood. Because hair and plants are the same thing, kind of.
I love that. What is your salon Instagram handle?
At Curl Power Salon.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that up right here.
Oh, I didn't put my pronouns, but I put my Instagram on my name tag. Whoops. She, her, please. Okay.
So if you want to learn more about Rosie's space, you can go to Curl Power Salon on Instagram. You can also go to curlpowersalon.com. Yeah. Amazing. And then last but not least, this Curl Conversation series, we always invite anyone, especially in our stylist community, to ask us questions so it could be featured on a future episode. And so please DM us on Instagram at DevaCurl Pro for any of your topics or any of your questions. And with that, I'd like to thank Rosie again. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for being you. And thank you as well, Jennessa. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you both. Bye.